Ethan Royce had everything a man could dream of. At 35, he was the youngest billionaire on Forbes's list, the CEO of a tech empire that had revolutionized cloud computing. His name carried weight in boardrooms around the globe, his private jet was fueled and ready at a moment's notice, and his penthouse overlooked the glittering skyline of Manhattan. But wealth came with a price. In the rare quiet moments, Ethan found himself staring out at the city lights, feeling a hollowness that all the power and prestige in the world couldn't fill. He had met women at galas, on yachts, and during exotic getaways, but more often than not, their affection seemed tethered to his money rather than to him. The conversations blurred together, compliments on his watch, questions about his net worth, and subtle hints about luxury gifts. One evening, as he sifted through a stack of charity proposals in his penthouse, Ethan remembered something his late father used to say: "If you want to know someone's heart, strip away what money can buy." And that was when the idea took root. What if he stepped away from his wealth, just long enough to see who would treat him with sincerity? Within a week, Ethan had swapped Armani suits for faded jeans from a thrift store. He rented a modest one-bedroom apartment in Queens, the kind of place with leaky faucets and peeling paint, and introduced himself to the world as Ethan Cole, a man between jobs, doing his best to get by. His personal driver thought he had lost his mind, but Ethan felt more alive than he had in years. It was at a corner diner, tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop, that he first saw her. She was moving quickly behind the counter, balancing plates with one hand and refilling coffee cups with the other. Her name tag read Claire. Her hair was pulled back into a simple bun, strands escaping to frame her tired but beautiful face. She wore an apron stained from a long shift, but her smile never wavered as she greeted each customer. What struck Ethan most was the little boy seated in a booth with crayons scattered before him. He couldn't have been more than 6. Claire paused between tables to ruffle his hair affectionately, her eyes softening despite her exhaustion. Ethan watched quietly, captivated. When the lunch crowd thinned, he overheard Claire whispering to a coworker. "Another late fee on the rent," she sighed. "I just hope the landlord gives me until Friday. Adam's been through enough, I can't let him sleep in the car again." Ethan felt something stir in him, a mixture of compassion and curiosity. Over the next week, he returned to the diner more often than he needed to. At first, it was under the guise of trying the pancakes or needing his coffee fix. But the truth was, he wanted to see her. Each time, Claire greeted him with the same warmth she showed every customer, no matter how rushed she was. She once slipped him an extra slice of pie, saying softly, "You look like you could use a treat today." For a man accustomed to being courted and flattered for his wealth, the gesture hit him harder than he expected. He started talking to her more, learning pieces of her story. Claire was a single mom. Adam's father had walked out before he was even born. She worked double shifts at the diner, and sometimes took on evening cleaning jobs, just to cover bills. Despite the struggle, she spoke of her son with pride and joy. Her dream, she admitted one night as they shared a late cup of coffee, was to go back to school and become a nurse. Ethan kept his identity hidden. The more he knew her, the more he wanted her to know him, not the billionaire, not the man with bodyguards and private chefs, but the man who simply wanted to be seen for his heart. Still, a part of him needed proof. Was her kindness unconditional, or would it vanish if she thought he had nothing to give? The test came on a rainy evening. Ethan invited Claire and Adam to a small diner for dinner. When the bill arrived, Ethan patted his pockets, feigning panic. "Oh no, I must have left my wallet at home." Claire didn't hesitate, though Ethan could see her carefully counting the crumpled bills in her purse, money that likely meant groceries or rent. She paid the check without a word. She even managed a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about it, you can pay me back later." Her generosity, given how little she had, shook him to his core. That night, as he walked her home, Adam skipping between them, Ethan knew he couldn't keep up the charade much longer. He was falling for her, and it wasn't fair to let her keep believing he was just another struggling man. But how could he tell her the truth without breaking her trust? The opportunity came 2 weeks later. He invited Claire and Adam to an art gallery in the city, telling her that a friend had passes. Claire was hesitant, worried they wouldn't fit in among the wealthy crowd, but Adam's excitement swayed her. When they arrived, Claire's eyes widened at the grandeur, the marble floors, the glittering chandeliers, the guests in gowns and tuxedos. She clutched Adam's hand tightly, clearly out of place. Ethan stayed close, offering quiet reassurances. As they admired a painting, a staff member passed by and addressed him smoothly, "Mr. Royce, everything is prepared for your private tour." Claire blinked. "Mr. Royce." Ethan's heart pounded. There was no more hiding. "Claire," he said softly, turning to face her, "my real name is Ethan Royce. I run Royce Technologies." She froze, her eyes searching his face for a trace of humor. When she found none, her expression shifted from shock to something more complicated, hurt. "So all this time, you lied to me." "I didn't want to deceive you," Ethan said quickly, "but I needed to know if you cared for me, not my money. Too many people only see the billionaire. I wanted to see if someone could see the man." Claire's jaw tightened. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then Adam tugged at her sleeve, his innocent voice breaking the tension. "Mommy, is he still our friend?" Her eyes softened, but they brimmed with tears. "Why didn't you trust me with the truth?" she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, his voice quiet and raw. "Because I've been let down so many times. But you gave when you had nothing to spare. You showed kindness without knowing who I was. Claire, you've shocked me. You reminded me what love and generosity truly look like." For days afterward, their relationship hung in the balance. Claire kept her distance, wary of letting Adam get attached to someone whose world seemed galaxies away from theirs. Ethan, determined to prove he was serious, didn't overwhelm her with luxury gifts or promises of wealth. Instead, he showed up in the small ways that mattered, helping Adam with homework, fixing the leaky faucet in her apartment, walking them home after late shifts. Slowly, her walls began to crumble. One night, as they sat together on her worn couch with Adam asleep between them, Claire finally spoke. "You could be anywhere in the world, Ethan. Why are you here with us?" He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because this feels more like home than any mansion ever could." Months passed, and their bond deepened. Ethan's presence in Adam's life grew steady, dependable. He read bedtime stories, cheered at soccer games, and cooked breakfast on weekends. Claire watched him carefully, and what she saw was a man who didn't just love her but loved her son, too. One morning, Ethan surprised her with an envelope. Inside was an acceptance letter to a nursing program, her tuition fully covered. Claire gasped. "Ethan, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "This isn't charity. This is me believing in you, the way you believed in me when I was just a broke guy at a diner." Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "You've changed our lives." Ethan shook his head, pulling her into his arms. "No, Claire, you changed mine." In that moment, Ethan finally understood what his billions could never buy, the simple, extraordinary gift of being loved for who he truly was. And as he looked at Claire and Adam, the family he never knew he needed, he realized his father had been right all along. When you strip away what money can buy, that's when you find what's real. Ethan Royce had everything most people dreamed of but secretly despised what his life had become. At 35, he was a billionaire, the CEO of Royce Technologies, and his name alone could make investors shiver with anticipation. He lived in penthouses, flew on private jets, and dined at restaurants where the bill could pay someone's rent for a year. But beneath the glitz, Ethan felt an emptiness. Every date, every conversation, seemed tied to his money. People didn't look at him, they looked at what he could give them. One evening, staring out over the New York skyline, he remembered his father's words, "If you want to know someone's heart, strip away what money can buy." That thought grew into a plan. Within days, Ethan stepped away from his glamorous life. He grew out his stubble, swapped tailored suits for faded jeans, and rented a small, run-down apartment in Queens. Introducing himself as Ethan Cole, a man, between jobs, he wanted to see the world through different eyes, and meet people who didn't know him as a billionaire. It was in a tiny diner that he saw her. Claire. She moved quickly between tables, balancing plates with ease. Her brown hair was tied back, a few strands escaping to frame her face. Despite her obvious exhaustion, she greeted every customer warmly. At the corner booth sat her son, Adam, quietly coloring on scrap paper. Ethan couldn't look away. Later, he overheard her telling a coworker, "I just need a couple more days for rent. If the landlord kicks us out, I don't know what I'll do." Adam's been through enough already. Something in Ethan's chest tightened. He started visiting the diner regularly. At first, just for coffee, but soon he found himself waiting for her shifts. Claire always treated him kindly, offering a smile or even an extra slice of pie, on the house. Unlike the people Ethan usually met, she seemed to give without expecting anything back. Over time, Their conversations deepened. Claire told him about her struggles, how Adam's father had left before he was born, how she juggled multiple jobs, how she dreamed of becoming a nurse one day. Yet she never complained. She spoke with quiet strength, focused on giving her son a better life. Ethan, in turn, shared bits of his ordinary life. He told her he was working odd jobs, looking for stable work. She never judged. In fact, she encouraged him, telling him, sometimes it's not about how fast you move forward, but that you keep going at all. The more Ethan knew her, the more he admired her resilience. But he needed to know if her kindness was truly unconditional. One evening, during a downpour, Ethan invited Claire and Adam to a cheap family diner. When the bill arrived, he pretended to panic. "Oh no, I must have left my wallet at home." Without hesitation, Claire pulled out the last of her cash, money Ethan knew she desperately needed, and handed it to the waiter. She smiled, though he could see the strain in her eyes. "Don't worry, you can pay me back whenever." That moment floored Ethan. She had almost nothing, yet gave without question. Walking her home that night, with Adam skipping beside them, Ethan knew the test had gone further than he intended. He was falling for her. But the longer he stayed silent about who he really was, the more dangerous the lie became. And soon, the truth would come out in a way neither of them expected. Part 2, The Reveal. 2 weeks later, Ethan invited Claire and Adam to an art gallery in the city, telling her he had a friend who could get them in. Claire hesitated. "Ethan, we don't belong at places like that. Those people, they live in a different world. You belong anywhere you want to be," Ethan replied softly. When they arrived, Claire was overwhelmed by the luxury, the glittering chandeliers, the marble floors, the guests dressed in gowns and tuxedos. She kept Adam close, trying to stay invisible. But then a staff member walked by, offering Ethan a respectful nod. "Mr. Royce, your private tour is ready." Claire froze. "Mr. Royce." Ethan's heart pounded. The secret was out. "Claire," he said gently, "my real name is Ethan Royce. I run Royce Technologies." She stared at him, stunned. "You mean, you're a billionaire?" "Yes, but I didn't tell you because I needed to know if you cared for me, not my money." Her expression hardened. "So all this time, you lied to me. You let me think you were struggling when you were living in luxury." "I wasn't trying to trick you," he pleaded. "I was trying to find something real. And I did, with you. Claire, when you gave me your last few dollars without hesitation, when you treated me with kindness despite thinking I had nothing, you proved something no one else has." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Adam tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, is he still our friend?" Her eyes filled with tears. She turned to Ethan. "It's not your money I care about. It's trust. And right now, I don't know if I can trust you." Those words cut deep, but Ethan understood. He had to prove himself. In the weeks that followed, he didn't bombard her with gifts or flaunt his wealth. Instead, he showed up in the small ways that mattered, helping Adam with homework, fixing the broken cabinet in her kitchen, walking them home after late shifts. Slowly, her guard began to lower. She saw that beneath the billionaire facade was the same man who had sat in her diner booth with a shy smile and listened to her dreams. One evening, as they sat on her worn couch, Adam asleep beside them, Claire finally whispered, "Why us, Ethan? You could be with anyone. Why choose a single mom with nothing?" Ethan brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Because you gave me something money can't buy. You reminded me what it feels like to be loved for who I am, not what I own. With you and Adam, I finally feel like I have a home." Months later, Ethan revealed another surprise. He handed Claire an envelope, an acceptance letter into a nursing program, tuition fully paid. Claire gasped. "Ethan, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "This isn't charity. This is me believing in you, the way you believed in me when I was just a broke guy at a diner." Tears filled her eyes. "You've changed our lives." Ethan shook his head, pulling her into his arms. "No, Claire, you changed mine." For the first time in years, Ethan felt complete. Not because of his billions, not because of the empire he ran, but because he had finally found something real. And as he looked at Claire and Adam, the family he never expected, he realized his father had been right. When you strip away what money can buy, you discover the only thing worth keeping.